Hey guys, welcome to the Derick Lake podcast. We're here at the Vault again with a couple local celebrities. I've known them most of my life. I'm lucky to call them friends. This is Connor Atkin and Quinn Allgood. How's it going, guys?
Doing good.
I
thought you were going to say my name first, so now I'm like,
man, you're
throwing me off.
When you said we're famous, that's not true. But
Your cartoons are famous.
Our cartoons are famous,
There
and
you
our
go.
voices on the radio are famous.
Yeah, that's why I thought this would be perfect. Everyone would feel at home in southern Utah listening to you guys.
There you
Exactly.
go.
This is Connor Atkin
Quinn Allgood.
with Tango Express Car Wash.
There it is.
There it is, right
You're not
there.
going to charge us for that, are you?
No, usually we have to pay you to do that.
Well, hey, I'm glad you guys came on. This will be fun. I figured since day one we'd have you guys on at some point in time. We thought we should get some practice under our belt before we bring in some heavy hitters like you two. I mean, you've got more mic time than I do.
Yeah, whatever. We're happy to be here. Happy to share our story, and hopefully it helps somebody in their life. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sweet.
So we were kind of talking about where to start in your story before we started the podcast. I can't tell if Quinn's being serious or not. If we need to start when he's 3 years old.
Yeah, well, he can start when we're 3 years old. We just got to get it. I mean, you said our names, Quinn Allgood, Connor Atkin. If you see us in the stores, probably, what would you say, 3 times a week, we're probably saying, you guys are brothers, aren't you? And we say, no.
And
Yeah.
we've literally pulled out our IDs and said, hey, here you go.
Here's proof.
They're like, no. Anyway.
So Quinn's going to tell a story that's not true, so I better say one. So I always tell people, he's like my dog. He's with me all the time, so he starts looking like me. But no, we're not brothers. He just looks like me. So.
Luckily, we're on a podcast right now, so you can't really tell. But
Well, we have video too.
We're just both tall and, yeah.
I mean, you guys do look like brothers when you're walking around.
Same
because of the
stature.
height, the build, everything's the same.
blues that we wear. I mean,
Yeah,
we
you're always
basically wear the same-
matching.
Exactly.
Coordinate.
Yep. Except I always wear a hat, and he always has to do his hair.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
I mean, if I had hair like him, I'd do it
Exactly.
too.
I'm
Connor's
balding.
at the same
Yeah, I'm balding. So dealing with him.
What's your 3-year-old story then?
So I always like to start it out this way. You know, this is true. I grew up across the street from Connor's grandma. And so it's downtown St. George. And so I always make fun of the fact that, like, hey, look, I live downtown St. George. And I was living across the street from Connor's grandma. And I always saw the Atkins pull up to their grandma's house to come and visit and everything. And
This is
I'd
where
be
it
like,
gets off track.
waving across the street and be like, hey, you want to play with me? You know, there's no other kids downtown. Like, you want to play with me? And he just like turned his head and he'd be like, no, I'm from the fields. You know, which back then, right?
In the
fields wasn't-
90s, yeah, the fields were just farm ground, so there's nobody out there.
yeah, but you're a big deal if you're out there.
Nowadays,
I wasn't
nowadays,
in the fields.
yeah. Nowadays,
Dogtown.
there's a lot of people that live in the fields, but back then there was like
Plus, the
100
Atkins
people.
and Staleys ran the town, so the name's a big deal.
Just
the fields anyway. They
Yeah.
ran the fields. So I always just make that story up. But like, I mean, I always knew of his family. And so that's kind of, I always make that little joke at the first, just
Yeah.
because I did see them.
But really, the story is that we knew of each other at Pineview High School. We both went to Pineview, but never really, I don't think was ever really introduced until in our early 20s after.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that because I mean we'd played sports together
Yeah.
growing up, so we knew each other, and then we were the
I
same
tried
age
to
at
play
school.
sports, but
He
Well,
got
yeah.
cut. Yeah.
It was in Little League where they couldn't cut me. That's why we played.
No, yeah, we played sports together, and so I remember talking to you, but Quinn, I think he was just dating too much in high school or something. I never knew him. I was too busy working
all right, we're
on
not
the
gonna go
farm.
out for personal side of things. So
Yeah. So that's really how we met before. I mean, if you've heard our story before locally, I remember specifically the day that Quinn's father was murdered in town. And I remember like seeing him in school and being like, that his
That's
dad
him.
was the one that, yeah. And my father had passed away 6 years previously. So like, I kind of was like, oh, we kind of have similar stories, but never like, I was always shy in high school. So I never went up to him and be like, hey, I'm sorry to hear. So yeah.
that would have helped me out a lot.
Yeah, it would have.
Coming from
You should
Connor,
have. He's being sarcastic.
a big deal.
No, I really think it would have, but I mean, I am a little bit sarcastic.
The,
as well
the
at
same
time,
story though.
but,
You probably knew. Oh, his dad passed away, so you could have come to me too.
I really don't think
He's like, your dad passed away.
Yeah.
I mean,
So-
98. I was only 8 years old, so
Yeah.
I don't know if I would have heard.
But once we got to know each other, later on, it was. I mean, that tied us together. Of course, right? People that have commonalities can connect better. You know. So we had that commonality. what other commonalities did we have?
Tall.
We're tall. We both like business. I mean, we talked a lot about business and sports. And I mean, to this day, we still talk a lot about business and sports.
So did you guys meet at the bank then?
So really, we actually met at a birthday party
Of a mutual friend.
of a mutual friend, and we kind of talked a little bit there. Connor was playing basketball at the time at Dixie State, and so he actually asked me later on. He's like, "Hey, I'm thinking about getting a job at the bank. Can I put you down as reference?" I'm like,
And you're already there?
He's already there.
I was like,
so I
sure.
put down one of the managers as reference.
course.
That's an in. You got to do that.
So of course he comes in, he gets a job and everything, right? And we just hit it off right then and there. I had a rental at the time, so we're kind of jumping to now. When
maybe the commonalities though kind of got us. He had a rental. I was going to Dixie. He was going to Dixie. I was studying accounting. I said, I'm done with basketball. I want to start investing. And he's like, oh, I got these stocks. Oh, I got this. You should look at stocks. You should look at. So we just kind of hit it off talking because, he's a year older.
I mean, he's mentoring.
He's a
you,
mentor.
Right?
Yeah, he's a year older.
I was
like
a
that.
mentor.
Never once have I ever said that about Quinn, but yes, he was mentoring me. And so I tried to get my own rental, and then we're like, hey, maybe we should just do a business together. So yeah, and
So you just formed a partnership, like an LLC, and just
Literally, we went to McDonald's and we were like, dude, let's form an LLC.
I was single at the time. He was newly married. Well, he is a couple of years married, but we're like, we're too cheap. Let's go to McDonald's where it's free internet, And I don't even think we bought food. We just used their internet.
No, we didn't. In fact, and I opened up a lot of accounts at Zions Bank, so I ended up knowing how to start a business and get the legal side of things. And so
Very basic.
yeah. So yeah, we went over to McDonald's using their free Wi-Fi, and we're like, let's just establish our business. And we were like, what's a creative name that we can use?
No, we had been trying to come up with names at work, and our manager, I mean, they knew that we wanted to go into business with each other. So they were trying to come up with creative names, and it wasn't that creative what we came up with.
But if you simplify it, Allgood Atkin acquisition, it was like AAA, that's what you can. So now you're on the first of the phone book. Why would we want to be at the first of the
We're
phone
worried
book?
about the phone book,
It really didn't
geez.
matter, right? So
at least you were mindful of it.
yeah, exactly. So, I mean, we established Allgood Atkin acquisition, and I don't even know why we didn't put an S on the end of it. We were just going
Acquisition.
to
We're just
acquire
one acquisition.
We were going to acquire one thing.
This is the acquisition.
the acquisition.
We didn't know. I think around that point, we started asking friends and people if they knew of any businesses, and we were just trying to get referrals. That's really maybe a little nugget of information. Ask people.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the best ways to learn things is to ask people. So Quinn's brother-in-law told us about a car wash, but in the meantime, we were starting to do stocks together. We probably both put in $500 maybe. I mean, I was 21, almost 22. Quinn was 23, so we were just really young, and we just started doing stocks. Day trading. We were so good at
Day
it.
traders getting our toes wet.
Yes.
Well, in 2008, I started doing day trading, and I started buying stocks and selling it, and literally whatever I bought, I couldn't lose on because
like
the
crypto
stock
right
market
now.
was going up.
Yeah.
Similar to crypto right now. It's just going up. So if you wait long enough, then you're going to make your money. And so I was telling them about that. And so we just started doing it together. Not that we needed to do it together or anything like that. We could have done it personally in another account, but we decided to just do it under a business. So then we were kind of cool that way.
Yeah.
So we did that for a while. In fact, we did really well in stocks. Connor found some random penny stock called TAG, TAGG. And so this comes later on in the story, right?
See where
Tag
you're
and
going.
go.
So we invested in this penny stock, and what did I say we bought? We
$1,000 or something.
no, fact check. It's like $6,500.
Oh yeah. No. Well, I think we bought like 1,000 or 2,000. It went up, and we doubled our money, so we sold it. And then we got back in, and we doubled down. We put $6,500 in it. We're like, this is going to take us to the moon. I mean, why not throw all of our marbles on it? So everyone does it.
And $6,500 was huge to us then too.
Sure.
It was everything. And so we're like, yeah, we're gonna gamble on this thing, and it shot up. I remember sitting in a
What
college
is
class.
it? We still don't know what it is today, but we just did it because
We
was
don't know
going
what
up.
the company was, but it shot up. And I was in class. And I remember, and I think I texted Connor and was like, hey, should we sell this? And we're like,
Don't be looking at stocks in class.
no,
Yeah.
let's hold on to it. We'll wait a little bit longer. And we're like, okay, literally like the next day, like just tanked. And we lost like everything, and we still had it up until like a year ago. Connor ended up selling it, but it went down to like $12.
We had an account open at like TD Ameritrade's, $12. I'm like, I'm just sick of accounting for this. It just sits on my books. I'll sell it. I had a $9.99 commission fee, and it's closed at like $7. So we had to pay to get out of it. We actually ended up having to pay to get out of it, but that's our tag story.
So we kind of got done with stocks. My brother-in-law called me. He's like, hey, there's this old ran down car wash. I think you guys would be really interested.
In Hurricane. I remember.
Back in the day.
When you were doing your mail route.
You were doing mail route, and you'd bring us the mail.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we started June-ish, and we didn't end up getting it until February of the next year. I mean, we're like every entrepreneur. We're trying to figure out how to do it. We need a down payment. We couldn't get any banks to finance us, right? It's the whole story of you have no money. Right. Generally, banks don't want you. When you have lots of money, that's when the banks want you.
Yeah, then they're sending you stuff.
Exactly. So
I mean, we got turned down by every single institution
that we would. I mean, I want to say we like 7 to 10 of them that we went to in town. Yeah, every one of them turned us down.
And what year is this?
2012.
Okay,
was when we were working on this. So we kind of got disheartened and just stopped doing it. And then we finally got like the end of the year, we got more excited again.
Well, Connor talked to his grandma.
I went to my grandma. I'm like, I know you guys got started in business. How'd you do it? And she said, start with a local bank that knows you. A lot of the big banks are just all about numbers. You gotta, So I looked up local banks, and really the one in town was Town and Country Bank at the time. So we said, what the heck? Let's go for it. Let's go talk to them. For some reason we had bypassed them, but we went and talked to them, and they said, this is what you have to do. We had to get really creative.
There was no books on the car wash or anything like that. It's cash-based business, right? So the guy's like, here's my bank statements, but no 20s or ever hit the bank. Sometimes and it's like, okay, that's great, but we're only going to take the numbers on what's here in the bank, and we're going to create,
So I created a profit and loss statement based off of the bank statement. Said, this is what your bank statements show. I think this is what you're making. He says, that sounds about right. So we said, we can pay this, and he said, okay. So that's how we got started.
So that's how the bank side of things. But then we still had to be creative because we didn't have that much money because we lost it in that stupid stock exchange.
Yeah, you're $6,000 gone.
Exactly, $6,000 just gone. And it's like, and so anyway, we did a seller carryback. So basically, he holds the note for a portion of it, and then we put in a little bit, and then the bank carried the rest of it. So we had a note from the bank and a note from him selling the property.
And then our money, which was like a private loan too. So it was basically 100% financed, basically, in one way or another. And that's how we got started.
But people need to know that's an option because, like you're saying, you go to the bank and I was the same way. I just saved up money and figured it out.
Yeah.
Like, because you can't get a loan doesn't mean you can't start something.
Yeah. If you're passionate enough about it and you're driven, you'll figure it out one way or another. And one of the things, like I said earlier, is you have to ask people. Yeah. The same brother-in-law of Quinn's, he was just like, maybe ask the seller if he'll carry back. We didn't even know what that was at that point. So we've now used it a couple times or asked for it. So
we did also credit card balance transfers, which is really risky, right? Because that rate inflates.
After a year or whatever, it goes up to 24%, but it's 0% for the first year. So we were.
So we were playing that game. We were playing that game like, hey, we're going to make this work. At least we need to make this work in the next 12 months. Yeah. And so, we're going to take a balance transfer out. And personally, we did those on our own credit cards and did that we were putting everything out on the line.
So that's really how we got started in business together. We only worked for 3 months at the bank together in 2012. And then I went and worked for a mortgage company. So we really didn't work together, but more than 3 months. And then a lot of times after that, it was just phone calls after work. It was phone calls. During
work.
School. Quinn's like, I'll just jump out of class. Let's talk. What stock do you want to buy?
At the bank, or are you just going to
school?
I'm still at the bank. I was at the bank for 5 years.
Yeah.
And so I was on this career path to being a branch manager, to going in the operation side of things. My career was going in banking, even though I always wanted to do my own thing. And so, but when it came down to this, it was just kind of like, okay, this can be our side hustle. So we kind of just did this as like a side
So
investment.
I moved from the bank to mortgage, and I always wanted to be an accountant. So I'm like, I can probably learn something in mortgages for accounting. And that was my career path. And like Quinn said, every night we would switch. I started dating my wife a month after we bought it. And every other night for a date night, we'd go out and clean the bays and straighten up the trashes, and then we'd do our date after. So every other night we'd just switch, basically. So
I mean, and that's Hurricane. You're talking like a 15, 20-minute drive from where you guys are at.
You're probably closer to 20. Yeah, 20 one way.
minutes.
Yeah, 20 one way. So we'd do that every night, and then we did that really almost for a year while we were still figuring out. We're just working our other jobs.
We swapped weekends too. I mean, we even had we had a Google Voice number, and so somebody would call, it would ring to both of our phones, and one of us would answer.
That's what I have with the store.
Side.
Yeah.
Yep. So, I mean, we can draw a lot from just this experience. Our first year of business really set us up a lot of what we've done. Like, one of our core values now with our business is customer focused. And that one of the things we learned, the guy that we bought it from, he said, don't put your number on the building at the car wash because people will call you. And then they'll just bother you. And we're like, don't you want to be bothered so you know that it's not working? Because if it's not working, you're not making money. So
look, they're not going to spend money if it's not working. They're not going to come back if it's not working. So yeah, let's take those phone calls. Let's get back to them and let's tell them we're sorry and we'll fix it and make it right. And so that's kind of how we grew that.
And you renovated that whole thing too. Was that the day you bought it?
No. So we didn't have. I mean, we spread ourselves completely thin to buy it, and then the automatic wash was so run down after like a week. We're like, should we put a cone out and not have it, or keep trying to like basically screw people because it doesn't do a good job? And so we made the decision right then, we're going to put it down, but then now we have to get creative to say, how do we buy $150,000 automatic? That's how much they cost at the time for that and the pay station. And so now we're treading water again. What the freak are we going to do for this?
What did we get into?
Yeah, so, I mean, we replaced the asphalt. We painted the building. In fact, a lot of the things that you don't want to do at a car wash is paint like bays because they get super dirty, especially white, which we did.
Sure.
And so it's like even hard to keep those walls clean. But we were just trying to be cheap in any way that we could to afford it and make it happen and make it work.
So like a year later, we got rid of the paint and put on the vinyl walls that you can just clean every month or whatever. So
just scrub them
we
down.
learned a lot. Like I said, we've learned a lot in just that first year of business. Just like any business owner, it's like, I don't know what I don't know, but I'm going to go for it and learn as I go.
Yeah.
So
in that first year of business though, too, we actually took out a loan from his mom.
First loan I've ever got from her. Just kidding.
But we took out a loan from her, and basically we were like, we wanted to get everything legal. We wanted to make sure that everything, our business partnership or anything like that, if something were to happen to us, because our fathers, both passing at an early age, we just wanted to make sure that we were prepared if something happened to us. So we actually took out a loan. We didn't take a dime out of the business for the first year. And we took out a loan to make sure that everything was squared away legal. That way. And anyway, so we just kind of worked it and then
every night. And I'm kind of more the one that always is looking for the next thing. So really, like the month after we bought the first car wash, I started looking at another one for sale in Cedar City. And at the same time, we saw this express model that what is now Tag and Go. I was up at a rodeo in Idaho. I came home that next week, and I called Quinn up. I'm like, this is like the coolest thing ever that I saw up there. And the same weekend, his uncle came into town and said, oh, you're in the car washes now? Yeah, you should look at this one. I go to it in California, and it's really cool. So the same weekend, we heard about this express model.
And it was the same
concept.
Free vacuums, an express car wash. Well, what does an express car wash mean? So, yeah, we kind of looked into that. But, I mean, really, by the end of that year, Connor found that one self-serve in Cedar City, and we got that one 100% financed.
We once again 100% financed it, and this one was 3 times the cost as the first one. So now we're doubling down,
And which one is that? Is that
the old Mr.
Bubbles?
The old Mr. Bubbles, yeah. It's not that anymore. We knocked it down and put a Tag and Go there now. But we actually both quit our jobs, our Zions Bank and my mortgage at that time fully, and we went direct into
Yep. I took a pay cut. Connor got a pay raise.
I got a pay raise because I wasn't doing any mortgages yet.
But my wife, we were pregnant with our first baby.
I just got married a month before. My father-in-law jokes, I wondered what kind of guy you were when you quit your job, like right when you got married. She was a school teacher at the time, so we had a little bit of income coming from her. Yeah.
His sugar mama.
Yeah, exactly.
I know what it's like too. That's what I tell everyone. I'm like, I couldn't do what I do without Amanda having a steady job.
Yeah. So anyway, we were able to get that 100% finance, quit our job, and every day we'd go from Hurricane to Cedar. We'd stay up in Cedar for 6 hours, then come home and did that every day for a year, basically, just up and back and cleaning out bays, trying to learn. And that's really where we started learning the maintenance side of the business. We tried to do a lot of it ourselves. And yeah, once again, just this process of entrepreneur, just learning as you go. And And then at that point, we still are working at this point on this tag and go model. We're trying to figure out at this point from our first car wash to now, it's like a tag and go's 20 times more expensive.
Yeah.
So now we're trying to get in the big leagues, and we're like, how do we finance this? How do we even find a property? We're working on our River Road property, but the guy, we couldn't get a deal figured out. So all in this time, we're trying to just figure it out as we go.
When I remember talking to Quinn about it, and I think you were telling me you guys found this and you were going up to Idaho to look at it, or to do some research on it. And I was like, dude, that's crazy. And you're like, yeah, we're going to buy property. We're going to build this thing. And I'm like, dude, you guys are going for it.
Our research was, we went up to look at one wash and that was it. I mean, nowadays it's like
done.
We do a lot of research.
Literally, we're like, what do you like about the car wash industry? Well, it's a good industry, and there's some maintenance to do. Oh, sweet. So you like it? Yeah. We're in. It's like, what do you have problems with? Oh yeah, that's fine.
We figured it out.
We don't know what you're talking about, but yeah, we'll figure it out. Basically, is what it came down to. Like,
seriously.
we literally walked down the tunnel. We had no clue what we were looking at this car wash. We asked minimal questions because you don't know what you don't know.
We don't know what to ask. Yeah.
And so, anyways, he's like, yeah, it's a good business. And we're like, well, if you think it's a good business, we think it's a good business.
It must be.
Yeah. And we're already in the car wash business.
Sure.
We're already experts because we have 2 self-serves.
But they're totally different. Totally
Yeah.
different. But yeah. Now we've been to 50 plus locations and now we know what to look for because we're in it, right? But at that point, I think it was like $150 in gas and food, and that was our research. That was it. We were sold. And so we just went to start figuring it out. There's a stint in there where we drove a septic truck in the meantime.
I was going to say that because I remember you guys driving that too.
So we got our first we got our first employee was his cousin that did just Saturdays.
Well, I mean, going back to we did the route going up to Cedar City, coming back, going up to Cedar City back. And during that time, we also have to pump out the pits. And we were like, okay, we got to call a company to come and do it. Well, we called a company in town and we're like, hey, we needed this done. And then while he was talking, he was like, hey, do you actually know anybody that would be interested in pumping for us? And we're like, well, we got some buddies. Yeah, we'll ask around. And so we asked, and they're like, no. Basically, it's like, no, that's too dirty. Like, we don't do that. Yeah. And so we're like, well, I mean, we could do it. We're like, we have no problem doing it. I mean, but we're going to hit our car washes, in Hurricane in the morning, and then
we're going to drive we drive it? And he's like, yeah, it's advertising for me. We'll just pay for the gas. So now we're saving expenses in our own gas. We're like, hey.
I mean, we're cheap suckers. Like, we eat peanut butter and jelly. Like, me personally, I ate peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for the first 2 years.
And not now.
We're just taking
it on now.
Now he goes to Taco Bell.
Now I went to Taco Bell, and I'm still working on that dollar menu side of things. So, yeah, I can go to the, I'm still cheap.
Once cheap, always cheap.
Yeah. So, but I mean, it was a good thing for us to be able to, we were able to make a little bit more money because now we're doing pumps. And so we're making money off of that.
And a self-serve, right? A self-serve, if it's really rainy, they get muddy fast. But in the summer, if it's not super rainy, it's like you can hit it once and go for a few hours, do some septic pumps, and come back. So it's like, do we really need to stay there all day? Because I'll be honest, sometimes when we were there and it was raining outside, we're like, we could go home, but then we just got to be at home and our wives are at work. So we brought a board game. We started playing board games in the back.
Like Stratego. We played Stratego, which was one of my all-time. It's like capture the flag and chess merged. And I mean, we played that game all the time. We played cards in the back room. We had water fights. We had a ton of fun. I mean, during our
you gotta have fun while you're working, right?
Sure.
So, but we almost had
building camaraderie. And you guys are building a relationship.
I mean, we knew of each other, but before we were business partners. But yeah, it was really a basis to set up for what now has become.
Yeah, I mean, you guys went fast.
Yeah,
a couple months to owning properties together and owning car washes together. And
I mean, basically, we're married as far as business wise goes, for sure.
Well, I had to separate you guys a little bit when we all sat down. Quinn was trying to hold your hand.
It'd be really hard to divorce from him business wise. I'm just saying.
It's getting messy.
So then we're like, okay, we probably should look at the business side and start growing. So we did the septic and did that for a year. And then we actually hired our first full-time employee. We're like, our Cedar City store is busy enough. We should have somebody looking after it more than us. And at this point, we finally got our Sunset property under contract, and we're working towards that. We had to bring in a couple partners because we didn't have enough money to do it. We couldn't 100% finance this. We tried. We were about a couple $100,000 short from doing it for the down payment and couldn't get it. So we brought in some partners and started building our first one.
Yeah, I mean, that's real money when you're 24
It's still real money
20
today, but
yeah,
yes.
yeah,
but
but I
yes.
mean-
I mean,
no,
we were
yeah.
23 and 22
Yeah.
when we first started doing our own thing.
But what about when you were
The
trying to set up
tangos
that
were like
tag and go?
20, 24, and
Yeah.
23. Yeah, it wasn't,
Yeah.
a year and a half, two after.
Yeah, name one person that has that. At 23.
But once again, now we're learning again what we don't know. We're going to now build, like we bought existing. Now we're building, and we're like,
Oh, yeah.
do you know of an architect that we can use? What's an engineer? We need an engineer, yeah, right? We're just learning this process once again.
So, I mean, this whole journey has been a learning from one end to another. I mean, just a grind, getting doors shut on us, having people say no. And we've always just fought that every single time. I mean,
And it's easy to get discouraged. We're all human. There's times where for a week we're like, should we even do this? And then we're like, no,
Yeah.
we do, right? I mean, don't think for a minute that just because Quinn and I have been able to do what we've done, we've been blessed in lots of ways.
Right.
It's
No.
not like we still have days where we're like, man, what's this all for? Or why are we doing this? Or this
Does
is
that
so hard.
help having both of you guys, though? Because I get that way, too. But I feel like I mean, other than my wife or a few friends, like, I don't have someone in the passenger seat telling me, like, no, dude, this is still worth it. I mean, everyone has those down moments.
I mean, I'm definitely one that fluctuates more. I mean, up and down. I mean, I get discouraged easily. I get super excited easily. So for me, Connor's very stable and steady going. So when I'm down and I'm like, dude, I just have way too much stuff on my plate. I'm worried about this, and this. There's too much going on. He basically looks at me and says, look. Here's how we're going to simplify it. We're going to break it down. We're going to do this, and this. You don't need to worry about this, and basically just simplifies things. And so for me personally, I mean, he's a saving grace when I'm down in the dumps and I feel overwhelmed.
So I just need to call Connor.
Exactly. Just call
Oh, yeah. I mean,
1-800-GHOSTBUSTERS. Just call me.
our personalities are so different. I mean, I am yellow red, so I love to have fun, but then I have the leadership side of things, and I'm very direct and bold.
There's 4 colors, and I'm blue white. So we literally
the
are the
other
whole
side.
rainbow. I'm the whole other side where I'm more level-headed, or if you will, or like
Well, you're
more
grounded.
passive.
Yeah.
I'm not as like in your face most of the time. I'm more just like, hey, we can figure this out.
Yeah.
So we're complementary that way, because there's times when you got to be a little bit more bold and direct, and
So
you
to
know, I
answer
might
your
hit
question,
somebody
yes.
down, and then he's like, "Hey, I'm sorry he hit you, but
You're really awesome.
you're really awesome, and you're doing a great job."
So to
Got
answer
the
your
point across
question,
both ways. You
to
know?
answer your question, yes, because in the accounting side, I look at the numbers. I'm like, how's this going to work? And Quinn on the other side, just like, we'll make it work. you
Yeah.
know?
He's the energy.
Yeah.
and- yeah.
Optimism.
So yes, it does help to have somebody, even more so than a wife. A wife can bring so much, but being in business together, it's hard to understand that unless you're in it day to day, right?
sure.
And we're both in it. It's not like I'm in some ivory tower looking out. Like, we're both in the grind every day. We know what's going on in the business.
Except for
So-
when Quinn's on vacation.
Correct. I mean, I think he's up to 20 weeks of PTO now, but next year he'll be at 30, and the next year at 40.
That's
so
a good plan, dude. I need to get hired on with you guys.
he gets harassed about that so much. He doesn't really do 20,
Well,
but we just have to.
I think I started making fun of you because of that, because of the hurricane car wash, and I'd deliver the mail. I'd always see you there, and there was like once or
That's
twice
because I was
saw
pumping
Quinn.
poop in the septic truck.
And so I was always like, "Where's he at? Just taking the day off?"
By the way, going back to the septic really quick, let's just tell this little story.
We gotta tell a story. Yeah.
So we're at a house right now, and there's this thing called a crust buster. So you can only
We're getting
imagine you're opening up this lid, right, to do a septic tank, and you get this thing out. It's a crust buster, and what it is it's a
that's
weed
nice.
whacker. Yeah, it's a weed whacker with metal blades on it.
Okay.
And all it is you got to mix.
It's got to become a liquid. If
Yeah.
it's too solid, it won't.
It's
pump
not
up.
going to suck through the hose, right? So anyway,
I think we get the picture.
yeah.
Keep painting that picture.
So you stick it in there, and it's just churning, right? It's just churning that up,
I'm
mixing
doing
it
it.
up.
I'm
Yeah.
in there. Quinn's got the hose trying to get it
Yeah,
going.
I got the hose down, like I'm down at the hole, right? Just right there, and I'm just whiffing it.
Face is right
yeah,
there.
Yeah, and so anyway, this crust buster has like a little flaw in it. It was struggling, and we never got it fixed. And so basically, what happens
I
is
turn it off, and I should have waited for it to stop, but I pull it up out as it's just slowing down.
And all of a sudden, it just gives this like little kick, and it just kicks on and just splatters me with poop. Just splatters me with poop. And so like Connor's just like,
I felt
his
so bad.
passive
I felt
side,
so bad.
he's just like, I am so sorry. Like, do we need to go home and get you a shower? Like
We had some Clorox wipes.
you can have my shirt. Like, what do you need? Because it got on my shirt, my face, and my arms. And I'm like, I'm just laughing. I'm busting up laughing. And I was like, dude, take a picture of this. We
do have a picture of it.
Yeah.
And we tell all of our bankers now when they say no, say, look, we're not above crappy jobs. Look at this picture, right?
Yeah,
we'll get crappy. Yeah,
picture.
we'll get crappy. So,
But no, I just used the Clorox wipe and we continued on for the day.
So some days back to like when you're down, some days we're like, man, those days of the septic hauling was nice because all we worried about was just having a good time. We'd drive up on Cedar Mountain. We got to know the area a lot better just driving around.
We used to sing "On the Road Again"
every time we get in the truck.
On the road again.
Because that's all you do is just drive.
Making lovers with lovers.
We just make up the words.
That's all we sung because that's all we knew. But I mean, we were just in this big old truck. And
so I think go ahead.
We've always incorporated fun into what we do, the customer side, being customer focused.
And I think that carries over in any business, right? Your business as well. You just got to worry about the customer and have fun. Because if you just look like a bump on the log all the time, everybody's like, man, what the heck?
Yeah.
So we really instill that. Customer focused and fun is 2 of our 5 core values at our business. I mean, that is just so important. He went back to the septic. Now I'll go back to the tag and go. So we got it fine. We got it figured out, and we started our first one. Had to learn how to build it. So many things we did wrong, but luckily we weren't doing a ton at a time. We had some time to kind of fix some of those for River Road, and then we got River Road, and then
Sunset was first.
Sunset was first, and we had 2 business partners. And I kind of go into this because this is a big turning point in kind of where we were going. But it was just always Connor and I, 50-50. And then we got a partner in on.
We asked one guy that we knew in town. We said, will you finance us some money so we can get our down payment? And he came back and said, I think what you need is a partner. And this was our first real discussion. Quinn and I do we want to do this? Do we not? I don't know. Do we want to grow? Do we really want Tango that bad? And we come to the conclusion,
it's like, do you want 66% of something or 50% of nothing?
Exactly.
Or something smaller.
Yeah. So we decided to go into business, and then what happened? We knew him really well and trusted him, and he said, "I don't quite have it all. I'm going to bring this guy, and I've done business with him." And we just said, "Okay."
And this guy,
we never met him. We had never done anything.
Yeah, and he's like, "Hey, he wants to be a passive investor. Let's bring him in. I mean, he hasn't done a passive investment yet, but he wants to be a passive investor and just kind of see his money grow." So we're like, yeah. So we teamed up together, and things were working out really good. But
once again, this is our due diligence, like going to the car wash in Idaho. We didn't do quite as much homework as we probably should have.
Because the name sounds great. Let's do it.
Yeah, exactly. He's got money? Sure. If you got money, why not?
So during this time, like we're building our first location, we're thinking it's going to take 6-7 months to build. Well, it ends up being longer. And so one of the partners is having a common part about how long it's taking.
Because we said 6 months because that's what other people told us, but we didn't know. It took us 9.
You're ask me on my 3rd one and I'll tell you how long it takes.
We're over budget. We're over time, just like every construction project these days with COVID, right? But this was pre-COVID.
He flies in a guy from Orlando Studios that's an appraiser. And he flies him in and says, "Hey, I need you to come and appraise this car wash that we're building."
To see if I'm in over my head or what, right? Because I invested with him, but it's not going the way I thought it would.
And so this appraiser comes and he's like, tells the value of it. And he's like, "Dude, this is not going to go well." He's like, "You way overpaid for this car wash. There's no way that you're ever going to make a return on this. Like, no." And so he got really kind of upset about the whole thing. And this guy is an appraiser of...
or not of like
attractions,
car wash real estate, but maybe other real estate, right? But
anyway, and so it ended up just causing some turmoil in the partnership just at the very get-go.
And this is the investor, not the other guy really well.
Correct. Yes. This is the guy that we never met until he was upset at us. Really, he comes and now he's upset because we're over budget and everything. So we learned real quick that when you're getting into business with somebody, you should know who you're getting into business with. Sure. Do some due diligence.
And really spending time with them too. Like, I mean, Connor and I, we knew each other because we had worked so long with each other together, doing stocks, talking a lot about just different things. And we knew each other's personalities.
And all the times you saw him getting out of his car at his grandma's house.
Yeah, and all the time
waving at him.
Exactly. So, I mean, yeah, for the
Let's
20
end the
years.
show right there, right? That's the culmination of all this.
The guy that blew you off for 20 years.
Exactly.
20 years because
He
I'm
finally
from
earned-
Washington Fields.
He finally earned my friendship after 20 years.
I finally earned his friendship. You know, I didn't make the basketball team in high school. I get it. I'm not good enough. And so,
Anyways, that started fizzling out the partnership and ended up dissolving the way it was, and it
Okay.
become now just the three of us. Back to the guy that we knew. We had to figure out how to buy him out. We had to pay a lot of money to get him out. But Quinn and I once again talked and said it's worth. We're going to have to take a couple years out of paying our loan off just to get him out, but it's worth it. I was losing sleep. My wife calls Quinn once. She said Connor's really upset. He just went on a run. And he never goes on a run. Like, that's a big deal if he's going on a run.
There's something chasing him?
Exactly. I mean,
no, it was like 11 o'clock at night and he's going on a run. He vowed to quit running after he played basketball.
because I was forced to run, and then I would go run because I didn't know what else to do. So, I mean, we just learned a lot of, we had a lot of stress at this point, right? Where we don't know what we're in for. So we learned, we learned a lot at the first of just what to do and what not to do. So, yeah. I don't know where we're going with that.
So you get that investor out.
We get him out, and then even then, at that same point, we're like, okay, we want to continue to grow. However, the other investor that we had didn't quite.
So
have
we
the
had
capital.
the two at this. He was able to help us get the first two, Sunset and River Road here in St. George.
Okay.
Now we're ready to go to Cedar City, but we need to get some capital. And this same gentleman that's now a partner says, well, I don't have any money. I may have to go back to this other guy. And we said, we'll just go start finding other people's money. And pay a percent what we were paying this guy originally. So I've pulled up my balance sheet before. So this started the process of, I think at one point I had 27. It was kind of my role to go find people. I think we had 27 different investors.
Wow.
That were lending us money. They're so not really investors, they're lenders.
Sure.
All off of good faith, all off of just signature loans. Some had some security on the properties, but
Trust.
This is like when we were saying at the very first one, we had to learn, we had seller financing, whatever. This is like to the whole new level. Now we're getting millions of dollars in private money, not just $20,000 or whatever, right? So this is, once again, learning along the way.
Yeah, now your $6,000 stock didn't seem like that big of a deal.
No. Right? So anyways, so now we're on to our third one with just the two in St. George's with the one partner, and now we're me and Quinn 50-50 on these new ones we're doing.
Okay.
So now our process is now we're learning how to do all that. So yeah, now it's just starting to snowball. We opened that one in 2018. That was number 3. Now we're 3 years later and we have 7. So it kind of starts snowballing after that. We figured out partnerships and what to do if we get in one, do some due diligence, right? So we do Cedar City, then we moved to Costco the next year. We kind of had a little lull for a year, and then we did 3 just in the last year. Hurricane, Santa Clara, and the old Mr. Bubbles Wash.
Yeah, the Cedar number 2.
Yep, we knocked it down. So we're kind of just still in this learning phase, though. We're still just learning as we go.
So the original 2 is still a 3-way partnership?
We were
today?
No, actually, early 2020, we were actually able to purchase him out along with the old partner as well that we got out earlier. He still had a lease on the land out in River Road, and so we ended up.
And it was coming due January 1st, 2020, until we had to figure something out. So we kind of said, let's do it all at once instead of So, and I guess I'll tell one story that for me personally, I feel like I really learned a lot. So we had some lenders locally, one of these 27, right, that we've lent in the past. We've paid him off, and we know 2020 is coming. So summer, fall, my wife says is one of the hardest times of our marriage was I knew it was coming to get these guys out, but how are we going to do it? We're going to banks. We bought some appraisals that they came and did it, and the banks are still just saying, we like what you're doing, but no, you don't have enough pockets. So we go to this lender that has more money, and he says, sorry, it's all lent out at this point. So Quinn and I actually go down the road to form a partnership with a capital group. And we're going down this road, and it's looking good. And the day before Christmas, we get the final contract because we're right at the end, and we just don't feel good about it. We get all the way, and we pull out on Christmas Eve. So I call the guy, and I said, hey, we just backed out of this. He said, our money came back, meet me on the 26th. So we have Christmas, we have the 26th, and on January 8th, we close a multi-million-dollar restructure finance deal to get our partner out, and now, but that's all hard money. So now it's all expensive money again.
Yeah.
But we're able to get, now we're 50-50 again.
And now it's just you two on everything.
Yeah. So,
Good for you guys,
so
though.
for me, the learning curve is, or for me, the learning was never give up on, like, you always ask. You always go back. We lost out on a real estate deal because we asked, they said no, and 3 years later we went back and they would have said yes, but it was already under contract with something else. So just always keep going back and just saying, hey, has anything changed? Circumstances change. So, yeah.
Which is not easy to ask. Like, I mean, Connor's really the one that has found all the financing for us at the end of the day. I mean, I've solely relied on him for that. So for me, I was always nervous about asking or anything like that.
And even at this point, he like asked an uncle and he asked somebody else. He's like, how do I ask? I'm like, just ask him. Hey, do you got any money to lend us?
So I think so. It's so simple, right? The worst thing that you can say is no.
Right.
And it's no if you don't ask them.
Exactly.
And so I think it's just one of those things that in your mind, you just put this barrier, this limitation on you that says, no, I can't do this, or I don't want to do this, or I'm not comfortable, or anything like that. And if you break down those barriers of limitation, you can go so much farther. And so that's one thing that I had a discussion with our managers last week on, is just breaking down those barriers and those limitations that we set upon ourselves.
And it's we were talking about the psychology of leadership, where it's like we all have baggage from the past and we put our own limitations on, but it's only because we put it on. We're the ones that can change it. We can go as far as we want to go.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I think of it as one of my favorite stories that I tell, that just a real personal story to me, is running the St. George Marathon. You know, at the age of 16, I got bet from Jeremy Hardman that, hey, I bet you $50 you can't run the St. George Marathon without training. And I'm like, I'll show you.
For $50.
Seen these strides?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm making $5 at Harmon's. Yeah, $50. That's
Like,
pretty good.
let's see, my training is pushing carts in at Harmon's. I have to pay $50 to actually register for the St. George Marathon.
So you're breaking even.
Yes, I'm breaking
He's
even.
not the smartest guy.
So so it's like, hey, if you run the St. George Marathon under 5 hours, I'll pay you $50. That was the bet from him. Right? And I'm
So
like,
it's not even finished.
I'm like, yeah, no, not even finished. Yeah, it's like, and I'm like, done. I just told him done. And so like I registered $50, right? So I'm $50 out of my own pocket, and I'm like, okay, I do it. One of the coolest experiences I've ever had. But so I go up there, they shuttle you in buses and everything, and I'm like, I'm going for this, right? You know, I got my ibuprofen in here. I got my goose stuff that you use for runners, my backpack full of water and whatever.
So you're over $50 and buying all this stuff.
Yeah, thanks.
Numbers guy
I'm
over
the
here.
accountant. Yeah.
This is why he runs the numbers. And so I get ready for this run, and I'm cruising. Like, I'm passing these people. I'm like, dude, these people are training for marathons, and I'm cruising past them.
Pushing
right?
carts.
Yeah, it's just pushing carts training here, you know. And then I go up Vale Hill, you know, that's mile 7, and I'm like, oh, my legs are cramping. Oh man, this hurts really bad. Now I'm seeing these people that were walking that I was passing that are walking past me now, right? Because I'm all cramped up, and I'm like, I just need to drop out. And I see these vans that are just driving by.
Psychology right here.
And,
Yeah.
and these vans are driving by picking up people that are like, hey, you need to ride back into town, you know? And I just keep on thinking, you know what? Shoot, I know that there's going to be people that are waiting for me at the finish line. And it's like, let me just push myself a little bit farther. Like, I'm not dead yet, right?
Sure.
And so I can still walk, but it's going to be a slow journey. So I'm like, okay,
He
I
still's
walk.
got the
and
clock
land.
going, trying to get that 5 hours, to get his $50.
I do. But at the end of the day, then it starts becoming like more like, no, I'm going to finish this thing, or I'm going to try to finish this thing anyway. You know, I'm just going to go through it as long as I can. And so like, and as you're going through the marathon, you see people running off and jumping into bushes to poop their pants, or they got freaking urine run down.
He always
their
brings it back
legs.
to the poop, doesn't he?
know,
The poop.
But like, and anyway, and I just keep on having this just focus of like, just keep on going. Goes like, I'll jog for a little bit, and then if it hurts too much to jog, then I'm gonna start walking again. And I just kind of did this jog walk thing, and I got to like the last mile, and I see my buddies that are there, and they're like cheering me on, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm finally like, and they run the last mile with me, and I finished. You know, I finished the marathon.
What was your
5
time?
hours and 3 minutes. I missed it by 3 minutes.
So he didn't get his 50 bucks.
So I didn't get my 50 bucks. So, but it was the limitation that I didn't set on myself. I pushed myself to, I lost 3 toenails. I couldn't walk the next day. Literally, I went up to a tree and I leaned up against it and then sat down. And then to get up, I couldn't get up. I literally crawled to somebody. I don't even remember who picked me up, but somebody lifted me up so I could actually get up on my feet again, because I literally was that drained. And so, but just those limitations and everything like that, we can push through them, and everybody has these challenges or trials or that they go through in life. And we've personally had a lot with our own fathers and dealing with that and, passing, and you have too, right?
Right.
And so, I talk about trials a lot, but then I was talking to somebody else and that works for us. And she's like, I like to call them challenges. She's like, they're just challenges in their life, not trials, because trials, challenges are like meant to get past those things, right? You can do those things. Trials, you almost put a limitation on that. It's like, oh, it's a trial. I don't know if I'm going to get through it or not, But if you think of it as a challenge, then it's like, no, challenge accepted. I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
So
perspective. I think when you were talking about that, it was kind of perspective to me when you were wrapping that up. I heard this story on, I don't know, one of the social medias the other day. And real quick, it was like these scientists, this is a theoretical story, right? I don't think this really happened. They put 2 kids in a room full of horse crap. Okay. And they went around to one kid and they asked him, hey, are you having fun? Are you enjoying yourself? And he's like, no, this room's full of horse crap. And then they went over to the other kid and they said, hey, are you having fun? Are you enjoying yourself? And he said, this room's full of horse crap, but that means there's a pony in here somewhere. And so it's like a perspective thing of like how you're going to view it and how you're going to come out of it. And I wrote a couple other things down. I think it's clear just from the stories you guys have told, and both of you do this, like you're betting on yourself, and you'd have to, for stringing yourself out 100%, like you're saying, betting on yourself to have that skill. And I think it's David Goggins talks about 60-40. And it's like, do you know David Goggins? So he's a SEAL. He went to like every different military school. Now he's like an ultra runner, ultra marathoner, does like the 300-mile runs and all this stuff. I'm pretty sure it's a 60-40. He talks about like when you get to that point where you're exhausted and you can't go anymore, you're only 40% of what you could do. And you still have 60% that your body's trying to pull you back from. And so like you're going and you're crawling and you're losing toenails and you're doing all this, you're really only at 40% or 50% or whatever you want to put it to. And you still have so much more to push. And I think in our society, we've lost that with a lot of people. It's like being comfortable, kind of getting soft, and people quitting and not having to push through to get through the end goal.
And I think that's the issue. You said the word comfortable, and I think we all like to live. Especially here in America, we're in a first world country. We like to be comfortable, but there's no growth or change until you get uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
As easy as working out. If I never get sore, I don't work out. Remember, I don't run.
Yeah.
But if I never get sore, then my muscles aren't growing. So there is part of that challenge, like he said. And like you said, part of the growth is in the hard times.
Yeah. Yeah. I was having a talk with another guy that we went to school with the other day, and we had touched on that. And he had asked me like, on a lot of the things business wise and life wise that you've had growth with, do you feel like those things have made you uncomfortable? And I said, it has to. I said, I think it has to. If you're always in your comfort zone, right, is what everyone puts it as, there's no growth there. And if you lived in your comfort zone your whole life, I don't think you've ever become anything, because you have to push past that to be able to accomplish anything you want to accomplish.
Oh, it's true. We strive to teach everybody within our organization to just, take pride in your work, right? Taking pride in your work and doing it for yourself, not for anybody else, but for yourself in general. And so those are the things that we try to teach and instill in them, because, right, we're an entry-level job coming in. We have 7 locations right now with the tunnels, and we're building 6 more in the next 12 to 18 months. I'm very uncomfortable right now with that. And I expressed it. Like, I've expressed it within our organization and things, because it scares me. It scares me that we are going to be doubling in the next 12 to 18 months, where we don't have all of our crap put together. we still have things that we're trying to work on and work through and push and, but at the end of the day, like, what's the worst that's going to happen? I mean, if you don't take those steps and you don't try and you don't push for it, then you're just, you're giving up. And so, we're just very big on our team and really trying to help them grow and learn. One of the things that for us right now, I was telling Connor, and I've told a lot of people within our organization too, it's like the growth now is not necessarily
the growth of locations and growing more. Yeah,
is more for the opportunity for everybody within our organization, because we're not where we're at because of us.
Sure.
Like it's taken all those lenders, it's taken everybody that has ever worked for us to be where we're at today, right? I mean, we're not out there prepping every single car and getting them through the lines.
Your operation's too big for two people to run it.
Same token. Our HR girl told us that we have 162 employees right now. So there's no way that the two of us can do that, right? So to Quinn's point, we've talked a lot about this growth is for opportunities for them. I've shared it a lot, the Maslow's hierarchy of something needs. I can't remember. It's basically a psychology thing, but like at the bottom, you just need food and water and shelter, right? And then you move up and you need to feel comfortable in your own skin. And I kind of say, me and Quinn, we've made it past the point of like, we just want to sell our business so we have money in the bank. It's not about that anymore. It's now about the people and the growth of them. And that gives us more. Why we wake up every morning is to give them opportunities of growth. When we see somebody that comes in and can't even talk to a human being, and then they leave and they're really good at conversing and they can talk and they can work hard and work on their feet for 8 hours a day and they've just learned a lot of life skills, that's more satisfying to us than, oh yeah, we got money in the bank, we sold, now what do we do? Now I got to deal with Quinn again. Me and him just hang out and play Stratego again. Yeah.
I mean, and it's true though, we've had multiple organizations reach out to us. I mean, we almost teamed up with a capital group to sell a portion of our business. We were a few months away from selling our business completely, but then we realized, what would we do? And it's not worth it. And it really became
what
about
would we do
the
and
people.
what do we do and what drives us? And
what does drive you? People.
I would say it's that point. I think when you start, back to the Mr. Bubbles day, we each paid ourselves $2,100 a month. And we're like, man, we are raking it in. Right? We're barely making it by. But
remember, I took a pay cut then.
I took a pay raise. So at that point, it was a little bit more about like, we need to get enough to be able to survive. Yeah. Right. We're just
young families, having kids. Yeah.
But then after it gets to a point, and not that we're just raking it in now, because there's a lot of capital costs in building these things, but there's enough coming in and out that we're like, okay, now it's about the people. It's not just about selling, having money in the bank, and now let's try to go do it again.
Yeah.
It's like, we've learned a lot already. Let's capitalize on what we've learned and keep going with it. And I think there's a lot of entrepreneurs that, and I can be guilty of it, is like, they just like to flip them every 2 years, right? Like, I'm sick of this, I'm done with it.
Yeah.
But a lot of times what you learn, you now capitalize on it later on because you've learned a lot within your industry.
Yeah. I've had that I had a kid that worked for me. I've had that talk with where like you had to go through the pump and poop and you had to go through the hurricane property and you had to go through those things to get to where you're at. Like you couldn't just plug me into what you guys are doing and me run it as efficiently as you guys do. It's just not possible. I haven't been through the same things that you guys had to go through to get to where you're at and where you're going to go. I mean, you guys aren't done by any means.
Yeah. There's a quote that I was sharing with Quinn. We talked about how, we used to eat out of the can from Western Family. Back in the 90s, our moms would say, hey, go get some applesauce.
Yeah, you want a snack? Yeah, go get that can of applesauce or peaches in there, Western Family style, Like, there's no, like, Oreo bags or goldfish or something like that. Man, are you kidding me?
An applesauce pouch with a lid? Are you kidding me? I had to get a can opener. So we were talking
just Bishop Storehouse, bro. The Western Family would have been nice.
Dogtown.
D-Town, man.
So yeah, we were just talking. I mean, it's something we talk about as we grow and as we keep growing that we want to our kids, right? We want to pass down the thoughts. And there's a quote that says, I can give you all that I've gained in this life, but I can't give you what I've learned. Mm-hmm. You have to go through that yourself. So with our boys, we still take them to work with us, like in the summers when they're out of school, and we're making them work. We're not just saying, yeah, we're building this tag
This will
and go,
be yours
and
one
this will be
day.
yours. Just walk into it, right?
Yeah, I don't want my kids to have anything, to be
Dude, I'm the
honest.
same way, man.
Because at this same point, like I've grown so much because from nothing, you know. I mean, from the grind
challenges,
and the challenges of everything. I mean, one story that I have is so when I bought my first rental, my wife didn't know this, but I actually took a loan out in her name. I took a loan out in my name, you know, did some balance transfers and stuff like that on credit cards, and literally took everything we had. And I think we had $200 left in the bank from like then until like
Your next paycheck.
the next paycheck. But not only that, like I was actually banking on not my next paycheck. I was banking on getting a renter in there to give me the first month and the deposit down.
So you had money.
So I had money, right? That would be $1,500 because it was $750 for the rent and $750 for the security deposit. And then I could use that money again. $1,500 would free me up for, you know, a couple weeks, you know, and during that time. But like, and my wife, she didn't know that we were actually even buying a rental. And she was really pissed because.
So I better do a disclaimer. Don't do what we do. This is just our story.
Yeah. But I mean, it goes back to betting against yourself.
Yeah. You knew you'd figure it out.
I'd figure it out one way or another, you know? And so
I'm to that same point, I'm a big Robert Kiyosaki fan. And he says, if you don't know what to do with your money or like whatever, go do a course, go buy something for yourself. Cause you're the biggest asset you can, you know, your mind, train your mind to do something. So we're kind of hit on that where it's like, we don't know, but we're going to figure it out and we're going to bet on ourselves. And I think that's, everybody can take that. That's like wherever you're at, whether you're a 25-year-old or a 55-year-old, I mean, bet on yourself and don't go home and watch TV for 10 hours. Go read a book or listen to a podcast, you know, at the vault, you know, listen to something that can maybe help you.
Tune into the vault over here, Derick Lake podcast.
Yeah, there's a little thing for Derick right there. Little, what are those called?
Welcome to the vault.
Should have you voice that over, man. Exactly. Yeah, and that goes hand in hand with taking a risk too, because everyone's, and I was scared to take risks forever, because coming up from, you know, mowing lawns when I was 8 to every dollar I've had to make, to floating my parents for a couple years on all of their expenses, paying for the house, paying for everything. Like I was terrified of tanking my credit score or not having any of that money. And I thought, you know, you work 18 hours a day and you sleep for 6. Like that's how I did it for years and years and years. And luckily now I'm able to back off a little bit and having a son and going through that too. But
perspective,
yeah,
as you said.
Yeah, taking that risk though, people are so terrified to do it. And you kind of touched on it, and I was going to jump in, but I let you go. It's like, what's the worst thing that can happen? I mean, like, worst thing that can happen, like file bankruptcy and then go buy another rental property in 5 years. You know what I mean? Like,
take out another credit card balance transfer.
Maybe let your wife in on this one.
and I totally do understand when you get kids and you get house payment, it's even more risky. In our favor, we were young, we were dumb, we didn't know what we didn't know. So what did we have to risk at 23 years old? Not near as much as we do now. I have 4 kids. Quinn has 3. We have houses. You know, there is more to risk. But I think whatever part of your life you're at, I mean, you hear a lot of speakers say it's more risky to not try on yourself because, for example, my father-in-law got let go at 19 years, and 20 years was when his retirement kicked in. So he's now retired and lost out on that. So I would say that's more risky than I took a shot on myself in my 20s and my 30s and my 40s. It didn't work out. I then started over. But yeah, if you're passionate enough, I think you can make anything work.
I agree.
Because we made septic work and we didn't want to be a septic driver, but we're passionate about making money at that point. We're trying to just make more money. So I think you can make it work.
And I think too, like people just don't realize their own potential. And so that's one of the fun things too, is when we see these young kids that are working for us, like, it's like, I see your potential. I know where you can go. And just come with us. We'll help you all along for the ride and show you what you're capable of, because there's, like, talks about the limitation side of things. Like, they just don't see it because they maybe haven't experienced certain things. But when you see certain things and certain qualities, you're like, those are the individuals that can really, like, flourish.
I think one of the things that you kind of hit on with the way you grew up is who you surround yourself at. At the very first, I said you just need to ask people. We asked Quinn's brother-in-law. You know, we try to surround ourselves with people. There's one person in our organization that he's like, I was so scared to take out a loan, but now being around you guys, I'll get loans
Yeah.
all the time because that's who I hang out with, right? So I think if you're hanging around with like-minded people, then you kind of feed off of each other. So don't hang out with Debbie Downers if you're trying to,
That's what I was just going to say.
Same thing with drugs, same thing with whatever. Don't hang out with druggies if you're trying to get out of drugs.
Yeah.
Right? You hang out with...
Well, and you always want to be moving up, and like having that comfortable friend group that you've had forever doesn't really move you up. And if you feel like you're that person that's at the top of that friend group, and you're not saying you have to cut those people out of your life, but you need to seek higher friends.
Yeah.
Higher friends. You need to, you know what I mean?
The mindset.
Yeah.
The
mindset of challenging, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
And, I'm not a fan of formal education. I got my degree for my wife and my mom,
What do you have your degree in? I don't even know.
See, most people don't know.
Communication?
Business administration.
Okay.
So, and I failed classes, multiple classes. In fact, like college was horrible for me, but I did it. And it's one of those things too that I look at and I'm like, the reason it's not that I hate learning, because that's not it. And it's not that I hate like education, stuff like that, but it's the formality side of things. Like I didn't see the application side of some of the stuff that was being taught.
Sure.
And it was just out of a textbook. And
it's out of a textbook. And I don't learn out of a textbook. I'm a more hands-on doer, put me in the situation sort of a thing. Yeah. And so I'm a big proponent on educating yourself to who you are. And
what you want to become. Because, we've been asked for what would you do if you had a year off. Quinn says, I'd go try out for the Utah Jazz,
I'd spend that whole year practicing for basketball, and I'm going to make the Utah Jazz. That's what I said. And Connor's like, I'm going to take a whole year off in rodeo, and we'll see.
And neither of them have happened. But but to his point.
These are the things that we talked about in the septic truck.
Exactly. To that point, I think you can learn just as much. I mean, people that are listening may say, I need to go get a degree. And where Quinn's going is, I think you can learn just as much, if not more, in a job, in a trade, and even just reading books that you enjoy that are along the business side or whatever side of you're wanting to do, whatever you want to do. So, some professions, of course, like doctors and accountants, you need to have a degree. But if you're just wanting to start a business, I think you can learn just as much instead of going to business school. There are some good things there. But a lot of times you got to go to 3 years of generals before you get to the meat.
I worked full time and went to school full time. So unlike some people, but
I worked. I did basketball. I was a full-time job.
No, so I worked full time at the bank, and then I went to school full time, and. During that time too, everybody was going back to school. 2008, 2009, people were going back to school. They're getting their degrees and everything like that. When they got out of school, they were like, "Where's my job that I'm going to have?" And they were struggling finding a job. And the problem is that they didn't have the real life application side of things. It's like, you have all this knowledge, textbooks knowledge.
But this guy has 5 years experience with no degree, but he knows it.
Yeah. And so I think that it's a little skewed that way as far as the education system on how it's worked out. So I think it's both, right? You need to have some knowledge and some education, maybe some textbooks, listening to podcasts. Way
to throw that one in there.
And working and applying those things.
Sure.
And so when I did that, it just propelled me so much farther along. And I saw other people that were getting degrees and then they couldn't find the job. And so it's like finding that balance between what's going to work and what's not. So,
well, they get out of school and it's like, okay, well now these loans are coming due and you don't have a job to pay those loans. And I know people that got done with school, no job, and they're $400 or $500 a month in student loans. Yeah. And I'm just like, good night. Like I'm on the same road as you. So my wife has her master's degree being a nurse practitioner. Mm-hmm. So I understand like doctor, lawyer, these things, you do have to go through school to be that. If you're trying to be what the three of us have done, you technically don't. It definitely helps having an accounting background or a business administration background. I'm sure that helps. Like I don't have either of those, but I've just had to figure it out. And when you guys are talking about asking people, I do have my brother Adam that I've been in his ear the last decade about different things. So having that opportunity to ask somebody And when you're talking about just barely, when you were just talking, I was thinking, if someone wanted to get in the car business, they would be better off calling up one of you guys and saying, hey, I'll do a free internship for a week. Let me shadow you. Let me go around and do this and this to help me learn to it instead of going to 5 years of college. Like you're going to learn more in those couple of weeks. And I'm not saying someone should do that. I'm just the example.
You should come apply at Titan.
Yeah. But I agree with that too. You're going to have more experience problem solving. You've got to get jumped into a problem to be able to problem solve. You can't read it through a textbook and be able to work your way through something critical and problem solve.
The limitations we were talking about earlier, putting on yourself. I've met a lot of people that have been very successful, and a lot of times we put our own limitations on, like they're busy, whatever, but most people really genuinely want to help people succeed. So to your point, if somebody came and asked us, we'd love it. I mean, we've talked, like, if anybody wants to start it outside of, our little area, we'd love to help them do it because we're big proponents of car washing and entrepreneurship and everything. So I think most people genuinely need to get out of themselves and just ask people. People are genuinely wanting to help. That's one of the reasons why we agreed to do this, because we love to help people. If this can help somebody in some way, I mean, that's what this is all about, is helping people.
What was it, Michael Jordan? You miss all the shots you don't take. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Exactly.
I don't know if you know Michael Jordan. He played basketball.
So let me tell you a story about Donovan Mitchell.
Oh, yeah, I've got that written down.
This is his story he tells at least once a week.
One of my favorite stories, and I do tell this all the time, is about Donovan Mitchell, right? Coming out of, coming as a rookie onto the Utah Jazz, right? As a rookie, you aren't just given minutes, right? You have to earn those.
And you're not just given money. You have a rookie contract, right?
Yeah. So you're on a contract, rookie salary, and you have to earn those minutes, earn that respect of that team. I mean, you're trying to make your way into that organization and basically prove yourself. So what do? They put in, 2, 4, 5, 6 times the effort as anybody else does so they can rise up to the occasion and get some playing time in.
Sure.
And so I just like the fact that, like, sometimes we see people that, just have these expectations of, like, hey, pay me this much, or I'm worth this or that. Or
I would stay if you paid me $5 more an hour.
Yeah.
We've heard that, or $2 more an hour.
Yeah. And it's like, well, at the end of the day, you look at Donovan Mitchell, who is this rookie and working his butt off to get where he's at, and he's not getting paid any more when he's winning these games and when he's getting this time, right? But at some point in time, he is going to get paid more. And he did get paid more, right? He got the max rookie contract, or the super max contract, when he just got out of his rookie year. So I think sometimes people forget.
The rookie contract, it was like 3 years. So to fact check that, it wasn't out of his rookie year. It was like after he'd been in the league already for 3 years.
Yeah.
So he had already proved himself for 3 years, and then he reaped the reward. And I think sometimes in our society we get it backwards. Like, I'll stay at the job if I get paid more. It's like, no, you show, and then you will have the opportunity.
Yeah, show me your value.
Yeah, exactly. So that's something I think that we try to teach a lot, is just, where are you going with that? This is your story.
Well, it wasn't.
It was his story.
Thanks for finishing my story. So, no, it's just great, because I just love using that analogy for individuals that, maybe think that it should be given, right? Everything is worked for, earned, or just like we talked about before, right? If you're given a business, you don't have all that knowledge, that experience that that was gained when somebody took that business to where it is. Yeah. And so you can't just take over a business and expect that you're going to continue to grow it. And so I just think about that, and the fact that, like, everything that you have to do is you're working for it, right? If I'm going to go bench press, if I just, lay on the bench and I lift my hands up in the air, I'm not going to gain any muscle from benching air.
You might, because you have none right now. So you might get more than what you have.
But yes, maybe myself. But you're going to have to challenge yourself, right? You're going to have to challenge yourself and put some weight on and make it tough. And then and if you want to continue to get bigger and better and build up, right, you got to continue adding that weight on. And so, it's a very simple concept, but not a lot of people like to do it because it's difficult, or it's hard, or it takes time and effort and energy. So
I like it. Was it his rookie year that Donovan Mitchell won the dunk contest? Was that his rookie year?
Absolutely.
I'm pretty sure it was.
That. I think it might have been. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think he was like a alternate, and then he came on and just showed out. Because I was sitting there thinking about that. I'm like, yeah, like he had to go do that. And And honestly, I don't even know if I'd ever heard of him before he won the dunk contest. I mean, I'd kind of fallen away from the basketball world, but I'm too heavy in on football and working.
And now you're in the podcast world.
Now I'm in the podcast business. I think you guys should be here pretty soon too. You guys are more entertaining than I am.
We can talk all about car washes. If any callers want to call in right now,
Be taking calls.
I mean, we do have a lot of good stories, and I mean, we do relate back to like, hey, we want to be successful. We want to be great fathers, I mean, looking back at some of the harder times in our lives, I mean, yeah.
Well, let's go to that. I have family written down.
Yeah.
I know you're both family.
I'll go there for a second. I just had lunch with a guy yesterday, and so Quinn mentioned earlier we're building 6 washes in the next 12 months.
And they're all in northern Utah?
4 are in northern Utah, and there's 2 in southern Utah. Okay. So I was telling him about, so my wife and I, Connor, we're going to move up and build them. And it was more of a family decision because that's what it was. And in the business, we decided to bring it. But he's like, that's interesting because if I were to move, it would have been all just a business because I wanted to grow my career. And I'm like, to Quinn's point, we have enough car washes going for just Quinn and I, but now it's for the people. Mm-hmm. It was something our family felt that we needed to do. So it comes back. Quinn and I are very family oriented. I'm uprooting from everything I know.
So you're moving up there.
I'm uprooting from everything I know because we feel like as our family, that's what we need to do. And it's, so.
And I'm going to jump in here too. Like I was devastated to hear that Connor was moving. Like that's literally,
sure.
I've lost my father in a murder. I've lost my mom to breast cancer. And literally, I mean, I feel like I'm losing my best friend to northern Utah. Right? I mean, I get to still see him, but it was heart-wrenching to me. And I had a real hard problem with this. And I told him multiple times like how I felt about it. And I mean, I sent him.
We got raw. Yeah.
Yeah, we got really raw and emotional about it. Like, especially me. I mean, so I did tell him, if you want to go up here for the car wash, count me out. I don't want to be a part of it. But at the end of the day, if this is truly for you and your family, like I'll support you. Now it took me a while to get there to that point, just because I was having a problem losing my best friend. But at the same token, I truly support him and that family decision to do that. And
if it was Quinn on the other side, I think I would have been the same. Would have been devastated. But at the end of the day, as you said, family is most important. I think we got that perspective a lot younger in life because of our circumstances.
Yeah.
But we're still trying to keep that at the end of the day, right? When you die, money goes away, your businesses, but it's your family that really matters most.
So how old were you when your dad died?
I was 8 when he passed away.
And Quinn?
I was 14.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then he was 24 when his mom passed away.
Mm-hmm. So, because I knew about all that, but I had no idea what ages you guys were.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can go on your story about.
What story? Is this my story now? This is the Donovan Mitchell?
No, I mean, the day that that happened with your dad.
Oh, the day that, you went to Washington Elementary, right? Yeah. For all those, we used to have, instead of like, they were called tracks. You're on A track, B track, C track, D track. And you would be on for 12 weeks and off for 3, or on for 9 and off for 3. So my mom, being the mother of 6, she put every kid on a different track. So then she could send them out with their dad to the ranch. So it was my 3-week stint, and I was with him every single day the first week, and then the second week every single day except the Friday that he passed away. And for whatever reason, right, you can say divine intervention or whatever, I wasn't supposed to be with him that day. So it brings another perspective, like, okay, what's my mission on life? I stayed for some reason because I should have been with him. It just, for whatever reason, I had to watch my sister that day. My mom, I'm an 8-year-old watching a 3-year-old sister. I don't know what we did back in the 90s, but it wasn't like these
crazy
days.
times.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I was literally supposed to be in the truck with him, and who knows what would have happened. So yeah, there's a lot of little things in life that when you look back on, you're like, there's probably more to this than just, it's not just a coincidence.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's that story. That's where I want to go into. So yeah, I guess back, you said talk about families, and we kind of went into me moving to northern Utah, and we just have tried to be supportive of each other's family. When Quinn needs to, take his 20 weeks of vacation off, I say, go ahead, go ahead.
Do you want to talk about your dad at all?
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about your dad at all? Because I know
Sorry,
that was,
I just tried to make a joke, and this is a serious part of the podcast. But yeah, go ahead, Quinn.
Quinn wasn't having it.
I was trying to count my vacation days for this year.
I've only had 18 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, my experience was pretty tough in my teenage years. I was struggling, I would say personally and individually, just having self-confidence in myself. You know, and so anyway, 14 years old, I remember being at class and a school resource officer takes me out of class and says, "Hey, I need you to come with me. There's been an incident that has happened."
What, like 7th grade?
This is
grade? 6th grade?
ninth grade.
Oh, are we that old in 9th grade?
14.
Okay.
No,
anyway,
no,
sorry.
8th
I'm just
grade.
trying to.
He was
Fact
eighth
check.
grade.
Eighth grade, sorry. Yeah, 8th grade. And so I get pulled out of class and they're like, "There's been an incident at the coin store." And I'm like thinking, "Oh gosh, like what happened? Like, you know, who's going to run the family business?" Like that was like my thought in my head, like, you know, okay, so something happened to my dad, and who's going to run the business to like basically provide while like if he broke his arm or something
It
like
hadn't
that.
crossed your mind
Like,
yet,
it hadn't crossed my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we go to the hospital and then I find out that no, this was an armed robbery where they murdered my father. And so, you know, and that was just a whirlwind of like, no, can I go and see my dad? And they're like, no. I mean, because of what the scene was like and everything like that. And so it was very traumatizing that way. And so I had a really hard time with that. I mean, I was really, really close with my dad. I was kind of a pain in the butt in the family. And so my mom would send me out with my dad all the time to do like locksmith runs and things like that. And so, I really was with him all the time. And so it hurt. And I struggled with that a long time. It was just trying to find myself and questioning why this would ever happen or anything like that. So I think about it in the fact that like, you know, now I look at it and I'm like, I'm the person who I am today because of everything that has happened within my life. And I'm very grateful for that. And I don't know where I'd be if
without those experiences.
Yeah, without those experiences. And so, you know, it does hurt though. Like I think about it.
I say Quinn said it hurt, but I think it always hurts whenever you lose a parent, whether you're 50 or whether you're 8 or 14. Yeah. There's always still that missing piece, especially if it's instant. That's the difference. Quinn's mom passed away of cancer, and not that it doesn't hurt any less, but he had some time to be with her, where it's like, I was just with my dad yesterday, like, and now he's gone. Yeah. So the instant thing, it always leaves a little hole. I mean, it leaves a hole there. And Quinn's now talking with 15 years of perspective of like, I wouldn't be where I am with that. But there's still days where you're like, man, I just wish my kids could see their grandpa. Right? Sure. So
yeah, no, exactly. I mean, I got 3 little boys that I can only imagine how my dad would play with them, you know, and I can see that joy and everything like that. And so there's days like that where it's like, dang, man, I wish he was here. You know, I just wish he was to play. Or man, I wish I could ask him a question about business. You know?
Yeah.
Or I wish I could just hear him say, you know, like, I'm proud of you. And which I know he is. Like, I mean, there's no doubt in my mind. Wherever I was at, he'd be proud of me for just being me.
On the jazz or car washes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And so, like, you know, there are these things and these, you know, that you go through in life. And so you realize that there's just this bigger picture in life than what there is every single day. Washing cars is nothing, right? I mean, business in general, it's really about the people and the individuals that you surround yourself with. I mean, because that's what makes a difference. And if I can make a difference in somebody else's life, that's what I want to do. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm 32 years old and I see life a little bit differently, you know, and because of these experiences, and I'm grateful for them. You know, I am grateful for the time that I had with my mom, you know, going through cancer. Yeah, it is really tough. But the same token, I think about it and I'm like, well, that was a great period of time that I was able to spend with her, you know, and have those moments because we grew really, really close. And I had a really close bond with my mother during that time. And so, I think about that, and I often make jokes about how I'm an orphan now, and
Only he can make that joke.
And I do. And I mean, I make these jokes, but in the sense of things, and it's all about because of my perspective of life. And my perspective of life is that I will get to be with them again. And I still feel that they're a part of me and in my life and everything like that. And so it's different that way, that, I do joke around with things because you can't take life so serious either. And you have to be a little bit lighthearted, and you should be able to make fun of yourself, and so I've gained more self-confidence in myself, being able to make fun of myself, having other people make fun of me. I'm perfectly fine with it. And so I take it with a grain of salt. It was like, life's too short to
be serious all the time.
To be serious all the time.
Yeah.
So if I can make a joke and make somebody almost stop in their tracks of like what they just said, like the other day, no, this was actually a while ago, a couple of years ago, somebody was like, "Oh man, I really hate this family group chat. Like they're always like texting me. Like my family's always chatting." I'm like, I wish I had a group chat. Like I wish
I had parents.
So, I wish I had a group chat like that with my family.
To have parents.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So I mean,
and they totally stopped in their
they do.
Like,
But I mean, it's in perspective of the fact that, like, hey, you know what? Cherish them. I know that you say that jokingly, but really cherish them, because that's awesome. That's awesome that you get to have those times with them and share those memories and everything like that. And not that I feel any remorse or anything like that about it, because I don't. But it is those things that, cherish those moments, take the time that you need to, I was going to make a joke about myself, but take the time, take the 20 weeks of vacation that you need to
finally admitting it.
He said he can joke about himself, right?
My biggest thing is I love to have fun. I'm a yellow personality. I love to have fun. I love to make memories. So I will be a goofball. I'll do stupid things like the whole, at the car wash, I tipped over a whole bunch of quarters, and we had to pick them all up because I was just goofing around and spraying poop on the face. It's like, it's all of these great memories that I have that really makes life so wonderful. And so I guess I just have this different perspective on life, with the fact that, like, it's fun, it's great, we learn a lot, there's challenges, it's not always easy. I have down moments, I have plenty of them, and but surrounding ourselves, listening to great things, I mean, changes our life and our perspective on things. So
yeah, this is why this podcast is important to me. Because I try to bring just like, I mean, obviously you guys are celebrities, but I try to bring just like everyday people on, and have those conversations. And if
I'm an everyday person.
Well, so I was just going to say, if we'd have done this before the tag and go was going, you guys would be everyday people. Now you're on the radio with cartoons of yourself.
But you have to pay to be on the radio. You have to pay to have cartoons. So if you want to be a celebrity, just pay something to somebody.
No, but I mean, that's what was important to me. And I wanted to touch on your parents because of that. It's like, hey, everybody goes through something. Everyone's got a story. It's how you come out of those stories and the different lessons that you learn, or even just not letting it wreck you. When my dad had committed suicide, I had people call me and talk to me about it, and not even that like their parents had committed or someone in their family committed suicide, but just something they were going through, and I would just tell them, like, you can't let this one event control you for your whole life. Like, have those feelings, feel it, but you got to get past it at some point. You can't let it make the rest of your decisions and blame things on that happened. I mean, it would be very easy for both of you guys to blame any fault in your life on, well, my dad wasn't around, or my dad was taken from me when I was X years old, or whatever. And I think that that's important for people to have a goal, have something to strive forward to, and not fall back on the past and the negative things that had happened to them, because it happens to everybody.
The overarching is a quote that I heard: don't let those challenges define you, let them refine you. So it's just part of the refiner's fire, right? Just making us a better person, giving us a better perspective. Don't let them define you. And some people will let it define them, and it's
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of that's maturity, coming up with some, because I had a lot of younger people, even in my family, call me about things, and I'm like, I understand where you're coming from. You're just not there yet. There's a little bit more maturity that you got to go through before you can transition that to where you need to be. And luckily I was 22, 23 when my dad took his life. So like, I was a little older. I'd been through things. I was dating Amanda. So I was dating my current wife.
Your current wife, huh?
My current wife, the one I have this moment.
Not your past one.
He likes to throw you under the bus with your wives, doesn't he?
He's like,
I just listen to the words you say.
not your past wife.
Not my past, my only wife. I was dating my only wife.
My one and only.
But it's like, I don't know. I think I was fortunate because it would have affected me a lot different if that would have happened to me, at 8 or 14 or I was very close with my dad at a young age. So I think it would have affected me a lot different. I didn't have a really relationship at all with my dad when he had committed suicide. So I think I was kind of already moved past that and it didn't affect me as much as it would have if I was at a younger age. So again, just trying to kind of compare like the different things everybody goes through, and not necessarily you can turn that into a positive, but you don't let it define you.
Yeah. And I think just on that, I was 8, Quinn was 14. That was 23 years ago and 17 years ago.
Wow,
just
he's
where
good
you
with
say
numbers, isn't he?
just where you say we're celebrities and not everyday people. I just want to say we are everyday people.
Sure. I was just making a joke.
No, I take everything serious. No, I'm just saying somebody's pulling my thing. Cut that. It pulled my head down. Cut that. Somebody's pulling my thing. Well, I was really going to go good right there.
You didn't see that, did you?
That was awful.
I was like, okay. We can end it.
So
I guess I didn't need to say that.
Yeah, you did.
No, I'm saying what I was going to say. Since I said that, I was just gone.
I did have something, though. So you got to continue what you're saying. But I don't remember what
I don't hear you now.
I don't remember what I was going to say. But it was good.
Well, mine's good too, and I remember what it is. Just the everyday people. I mean, we still go through challenges. I mean, we've had a few miscarriages. Quinn and his wife's had some pregnancy. So, like,
we've gone through IVF. They've had multiple times.
They're trying to get kids. So, like,
I didn't know
just because
that.
we had that one event, we talk about that a lot in our business because it defines our business. But still, to this day, right, we're moving to Northern Utah. We've had that, like, mental trial of just trying to figure it out. We're still just like everybody else that we have current challenges,
Sure.
Not just like that was that one event and now life's peachy.
Everything's great.
Yeah, everything's peachy now. We still have current trials we're going through.
Yeah.
Challenges, not trials, challenges.
And also, like, I mean, I've gone to therapy, I've gone and seen a counselor and things like that. And I think those things are great. And I think a lot of times people don't want to talk about that because they're nervous to be judged or anything like that. And I'm a big proponent of talking about your feelings,
Sure.
And getting them out and sharing them. You're not psychotic if you go and talk to a therapist, right? It is so important to share those emotions, talk them through. I've learned a lot about myself, why I've had, certain thoughts or did certain things in my life. And it's just because of, things that had happened. Right. And so, like, I'm not crazy or anything. And so I just
a little crazy, but not in that way he's talking about.
Thanks.
Sorry, no. To lighten the mood there.
So I'm just a big proponent of really just expressing your feelings. So I appreciate the fact that, like, you do bring things out, and the fact of, like, transparency, because we all have things that, maybe we keep inside, maybe we don't share with others, but I think it's really important to share with others these things that we're going through, because it really helps. It helps not only ourselves, but it helps others, because other people also struggle with so many different things in life.
I think it helps humanize people too. Like,
exactly.
Right, we're in a social media and you're going to share certain things from this podcast on social media, but it's like, we're all human. We all go through it. We all share similar challenges. Let's share it together and help each other, buoy each other up. Don't just think, the Facebook family, that everything's perfect.
Yeah.
All of us have issues.
Well, that helped me personally and in business when I made that transition of like say you get pulled over and you're like, that guy's just a dude doing his job. Like, the cop's just a guy doing his job. Or you go talk to another business owner and you're like, this guy's got the same struggles I do. And he's probably going to go home tonight and want to watch football, but he's going to need to fold clothes, or whatever. Like, having that shift, I had it in my teenage years of, dude, he's just another guy trying to do his best. And I think that's everybody, though. And so everyone has a story. And what you were saying with things that you go through, I think the scariest thing that we can do as humans is feel alienated. We can feel like we're the only one that struggles with this, the only one that had to go through this. And getting through, and that's another reason we started the podcast, was just to share, like, you're not the only person going through this, and everybody has struggles. Like you're saying, we're everyday people, and that's the point. That's why we're here.
Sometimes I have weird thoughts in my head, and I'm like, do other people think this way? And then I've heard Connor say certain things, and I'm like, he does think that way, you know?
It's not just me.
It's not just me, right? So it is so true. Like when you start hearing these other things, it makes you feel like it is okay.
Yeah.
And and you're not just this weird person or whatever. And
Well,
I don't know why everybody thinks that everybody's weird, right? Everybody internally thinks that, that they are weird.
They're the self.
That they're the self weird one or the odd one out or anything like
Yeah,
that.
is
And
that
it's
like narcissistic to think that I'm the only one that goes through this?
Apparently we are.
Well,
I'm that special. I'm the only one that has this challenge.
I remember in school, and again, maybe everyone's gone through this, but I remember in school I was sitting there, and a teacher was like, if you guys have a question, raise your hand and ask it, because I'm sure the same people have that same question. And I was never the one to raise my hand, because I was like, I'm sure nobody's thinking this. And then someone would raise their hand and say the same thing I was thinking that I didn't understand. And it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
No, it's true.
If we spiral into that for a second, I'm reading a John Maxwell book called Good Leaders Ask Great Questions. And they say you can basically define the success from somebody on the quality and quantity of questions they ask. There's no stupid question, right? So I think asking the right question to the right person. I'm not going to go ask some Joe Schmo about business. I'm going to ask the business owner in town. So ask the right person the right question, and that's how you get going. So, right, somebody can ask Quinn about the experience. Yeah, accounting. That's the wrong thing to ask. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. I was trying to be serious, but yes.
Welcome to the Bash Quinn.
So yeah, ask the right people the right questions, and then you can get the right answers.
Yeah, sure.
So.
What I got a quote that I like to share every now and again too, is that you can measure the level of success of somebody by the number of uncomfortable conversations that they've had.
Because think of successful people. Do you think they never have uncomfortable conversations?
Yeah.
I think they put themselves in those
uncomfortable situations.
They're like seeking out that.
Like talking to employees about something they're not, as business owners, like, I don't really want to talk to them. It's like, no, I'm going to have this uncomfortable conversation.
Yeah.
Or this bothers me about, my wife. This bothers me. I want to tell you about it because we want to fix it. Not, I'm just going to.
What bothers you?
Yeah. You listening? Are you listening? That I fold all the clothes. That's my new business idea. If I can make a robot to fold clothes, I'd save so much time with 4 kids. That's all I do.
That,
that's all I do is fold
the
clothes.
sides of the board and it folds it.
I watch a lot of TV because I fold while I'm watching TV, and with 4 kids, it adds up.
Are you guys? I did want to ask you this because that's something I've ran into. How do you guys handle hiring right now with a lot of people not wanting to work or working for a week and quitting? Are you guys running into those same issues, or are you?
Yeah, we do have issues with hiring. I mean, not hiring. We're hiring people. Like we're getting we just hired 10 people last week. I mean, we're hiring I think between 8 and 12, 15 people a week or so that we're hiring, but we're just churning just as fast too.
Just retaining them.
And so it's retention. So we've really been trying to focus on hey, find out what our culture is really about. If you know what our culture is about and you believe it and you feel it, they're going to want to. They stay and they understand it and they get it.
We've always taught culture, but now it's even elevated.
More so.
Yeah.
We have orientation now where we've put resources to somebody specifically is focused just on employee retention, on training, on orientation. We're trying to do a lot just like everybody else. We're everyday people. We have the same troubles that everybody else does, but it's trying to figure out what's going to work. And I think culture at any business is one of the best things.
So we were talking this morning just about the fact of where businesses come from, right? The roots and the reason why businesses exist.
Why did they start?
Why did they start? And it's because of a passion or a culture or a love of something, right? And people just rallied around the idea of whatever it might be.
Sure.
And so if we stay within the roots of where we came from and why we're doing this, people will rally along with it. Sam Walt did it with Walmart, and he preached it all the time. And then there was this succession. How well did the succession plan go of when he left and passed on, right, to who it goes to next? So there's a big thing about succession. Connor had a conversation
so,
yesterday with an individual.
Yeah, and to hit that point, for us, it's always been about family. It's always been about local things. So we're really rallying around, hey, be involved in the local community, give back. We all got to give back in some way because we're all here because of the communities we live in, not just because of what we've done.
Well, and you guys do too. I think it's anyone that lives in southern Utah should be very clear that you guys do that. And I mean, the event that we threw last year, you guys were gracious. Is that the word I want to say? You guys threw in some free stuff to earn money.
I mean, and that's part of from where we came from is like the community really rallied around us and our families in time of hardship.
Yeah.
And so we've always been community focused and driven towards giving back to the community because we've been able to give so much, right? The scare wash that we do right now, we give back all the proceeds to, we have 4 individuals this year that we've picked that are battling cancer. And all the proceeds go to those individuals. So it's a fun activity that we're doing, and we have a lot of fun doing
and now to practice what we preach, we've done that. This is our 3rd year. We did the first year, we're like, oh, we kind of planned it last minute. We did the Huntsman Cancer Institute. Last year, we're local, so we picked local people. Now this year, again, is local, but then we're like, the answer's always no if we don't ask. So we've raised $7,500 additionally, just asking our vendors. We said, do you guys want to help us?
Before we even opened the scare wash, we raised $7,500 just outside. And so
when we say all the answer's always no if you don't ask, we're like, well, we'll ask. Right. Now we may ask people locally, say, do you want to give back next year, right? The answer's always no if you don't ask. So we're trying to, what we're talking about, it's not just like some concept. We're literally living it right now, day to day.
Yeah.
This morning, me and Quinn are talking about labor shortages, right? Just like everybody, we're in the grind day to day.
So being involved, being engaged. I mean, our core values are, Connor came up with them, but
customer focused, driven, engaged, fun, and growth. So basically everything we've been talking about, being engaged, growth with individuals, driven. We're very driven. We won't take no for an answer. So yeah, that's our core values at our company. And it could be at somebody else's too, but for us, that's what's core, and that's who we try to hire. Yeah. People that want to have those traits.
Do you see that? Because what I've noticed recently, kids that I've hired younger kids, right? Like I think I've got one that's 35 that works for me. Everyone else is under 20. And I've noticed that I'm very money driven. Like you figure out how to make $50 by running. I mean, I probably wouldn't run a marathon. I would have when I was 16, not now. But like if you put $1 in front of me, I'll jump in. It seems like nowadays that's what they're about, is having a mission and being a part of something. Are you guys seeing that too? Because that's what I've realized the last couple of years.
I mean, there's a study that's done that's based off of like, hey, what are the qualities that people are really want within an organization? And money is not at the top. Money is not at the top of this. I think it's like 4th or 5th down the list of the importance wise, And so, yeah, if they can feel some passion or some cause behind what they do, it's so much more important. The show The Prophet from Marcus Lamone, he talks about like the cause so much, like when you have a business and why do you do it, and let your story be known why you do things. If you think of like Tom's Shoes or, there's a mission behind it or what they do. And a lot of times when you go into Shark Tank, everybody tells their story. And if that story is told properly, then people rally behind it and back up, and then that's where it really comes in. So I think everybody just needs to do a better job of like why things got started and and kind of go back down to the roots of where your organization came from and why it's around today, and then what made it successful,
and then try to stick at that. Quinn was starting to go off on a lunch I went with yesterday, and they talked about how the culture at the company they've been at for 10 years has changed dramatically from employee focused to now number focused, and there's people leaving quite frequently right now because of the change in culture. So it's important for all of us, whether we have 5 employees or 500 employees or 5,000, to remember what got you there and why you're successful, because a lot of times investors or capital groups come in and it's just about the numbers. And that is important. None of us are in business without numbers, right? Coming from the accounting guy, it is important, but at the same time...
No, it'll work out. It just works out.
Just work harder.
At the same time, it's got to be, it's all about the people. So to your question, yes, millennials, Gen Zers or whatever they are. It's all about the mission. And our mission is to keep it local, right? That's one of our big missions. So
And promote within, that's one of our huge things is we just want people to grow. We love like our growth side of things. If people can grow individually, that for us, we see, what's the word I'm looking for?
I'm not following you today on that one. She can cut this out.
You see potential. You see.
They promote from within.
No, when they promote within, we feel that. What is it?
You got it, Derick?
No,
I don't.
This can be the bloopers reel right here.
Wow. Anyway,
sorry. I'm not getting that.
I don't know where I'm going with that, but
so I struggle with it because I have those mail routes that I've done for a while, right?
Yeah.
And I've always viewed it as like a stepping stone to get to something else. And that's what I used it for. I did them in the morning, and then I did holsters all afternoon, and then half the time I had another job I would go to, or vice versa. And so now I have people that I've hired out that do those routes for me, and I still view it as like, okay, they're going to move on one day, and I'm not sure if that's like the right way to look at it or not.
I mean, if it's more of an entry level job like ours, we know. Unless they move up to a higher leadership role, they're going to be gone at some point.
There's nothing else to go to. It just is what it is.
And that's Quinn and I, part of our growth strategy is like, if we want to have some more time for our family, it's better to get bigger, to have people in place than just us always running like you, 16 hours a day all the time. Because we had those days where we were 6 a.m. to 9 p.m., running around.
I think the biggest thing is like even with our entry level jobs, like we still promote the fact that like, hey, we want you guys to grow and learn within this position. So whatever you do, we want you to work the hardest. So we try to teach them just simple things of like, if you put forth the effort, like it's all about you and doing it for yourself, right? That's how you're going to grow. And so like just teaching them values that can really stick with them has really helped. I feel like them actually see the value, because if you're giving them value of some sort, like you're teaching them, giving them leadership skills, things like that, they see that value that you're providing them some sort of an education along with just their job, right? You're teaching them real life skills or lessons or anything like that.
A lot of these young kids are like our young kids. They're so moldable, right? A lot of them, it's their first, second, maybe third job. And to Quinn's point, it's all about them. If they slack off and they work for us for 6 months or a year, that's only hurting themselves for their next job. They're like, I'll see if I can get away with the next job. It's like you personally try your best, because when you become a business owner or when you go to your next job, it's only going to help you out. Yes, it helps us. We need the trash swept on the ground. But at the end of the day, this is about you.
And your growth.
Because
I've got Abe, my man Abe at the Safe Store. He just finished Snow Canyon football, so now he's coming back pretty much every day after school. And I keep telling him that. I'm like, dude, I need to start getting some procedures in line. I need to start doing stuff, because I'm hindering you because it's so laid back here. It's just, hey, we need to get A, B, and C done today, and that's a productive day for us. And if someone comes in, dude, he's a hammer on sales. We call him the closer because I just send him in and he sells safes all day. But I've had that talk with him, like, dude, you need to understand, like, being on your phone, having your phone available all the time, I'm not helping you at your next job. Doing this, I'm not helping you. Like, we probably need to sit down and come up with those guidelines and those procedures for you to have that growth moving forward. And honestly, I hope he works for me for the rest of his life. I love the kid. But
and part of our we said, are we going to talk about car washes? What are we going to talk about? We've just been going. Part of our entrepreneurship journey is when we find good people. Me and Quinn are right now, we're motivated on growing Tag and Go because there's so much growth. But in the past, and we still even think about, like, I want to keep Abe. It may not be in the safe store, but I'm going to start another business or try to do something to keep him, because it's so hard to find people that are dedicated to your cause or passion. And if you find them, you want to keep them. So
yeah, because with football ending, I was like, man, I wonder if he's going to want to come, because he's been doing Saturdays. Mm-hmm. So he'll go to school, does football. Friday has his game, and then he comes in and runs the store on Saturday. This kid's 16, and he runs the store. I'm not even there. He runs the store on Saturdays, so I can have.
Does he want a job at Tag and Go?
Right. And so he texts me the other day, hey man, football's done. Just wondering, what your thought is about me picking up some more hours. And I'm like, when you're done with school, head over and we'll talk about it. And I'm thinking like, please just want to come back every day,
Yeah.
And I said, well, dude, honestly, for me, I would rather, like, I want you here. I would rather you come back, Monday through Fridays, 3 to 6. And he's like, oh, good. That's what I wanted to do. And then, like, it made me feel good. Like, okay, he wanted to come back. He could have been like, hey man, thanks for helping me out, through whatever. Thanks for helping me get some money for my Forerunner. I'm moving on to the next thing.
Yeah.
And so it kind of felt good for me too, of like, okay, he's somewhat bought into something because he wants to come back and be there.
That's awesome.
And that's one of our things that we think about a lot is just like, hey, we've got great people and we want to keep them. So we gotta build, we gotta grow. We gotta consistently build and challenge and grow. So then they want to stay with us.
Because once they see a
And so-
plateau, then it's like, I need to move on because I'm plateaued.
Sure.
Right?
We're always working towards the growth side of things throughout all of life. And so something's always got to be somewhat challenging for them to be engaged in it. And so that is a worry that we have a lot of the times, is just kind of saying, okay, where can we take these guys next and help them along, because we do want to challenge them. And we're challenging ourselves too,
Sure.
right? Because we're like, well, what do we need to do to make this happen?
Move to Salt Lake and open up 4 more.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother bag of worms. To that point, we realize we don't know what we don't know. So Quinn and I hired a business coach to help us in it. So yeah, we're figuring out as we go, but at the same time, we know that we're building something bigger than our experience. So we're trying to get some processes, procedures in place. Me and Quinn bootstrapped this thing for the first few years. We didn't have anything.
Right.
Core values, policies, procedures, same as you're saying. We just
Right.
Our coach said, hey, so how are your managers learning? And we're like, well, they just learn from being here and
time,
then,
experience.
Yeah. And so he's just like, look, until they make it so where you can just insert a USB into your brain and then put it into somebody else's brain, you've got to have it on paper. Because if it's not on paper, it's non-existent. And so that was the big like aha moment for us, and being like, okay, if we're going to make this real, we've got to change some things.
No, so Quinn's putting on paper. I'm still in the process of trying to figure out the USB in the back of the head.
Dude, I'm going to start that today, because that is one of my downfalls at the store is I don't have any, because I'm just like, I show up, I work, I be as productive as I can, and then I go home. But that's not how
That's one of the hard
everyone
part
works.
about most entrepreneurs is they don't want to cross the T's and dot the I's.
Yeah.
They just
I
want
just
to
wanna
work and
move
earn money and move on. So
Amen to that. I hate crossing T's and dotting I's.
Well, we're about at 2 hours. I think we're doing pretty good to wrap it up, unless you guys got anything else you want to add right at the end. This is what everyone's going to remember when they stop this, so make it good.
Make it good. Lots of pressure here.
We've got 7 listeners, so they're going to take this home with them.
7 listeners.
I think there's 12.
Yeah. Well, after your
This isn't live, right? So we don't know how many.
Yeah, after your wives and kids listen to it, we'll have 12.
You should have asked me before I came,
Well, that's why I wanted to drop it, dude.
Yeah. I'll let Quinn go first.
I think my biggest takeaway that I would like everybody to know is just like the fact of limitations. Don't set limits for yourself, because you can do so much more and you have more potential than you realize. And so surround yourself with great people that can really help push you and lead you on a path of success.
And yeah,
Beat that.
I will.
Top that.
Mic drop. Can we literally drop this mic?
Thanks for opening for Connor. Now, Connor, what do you have to say?
Cut
That's
that,
all,
actually.
folks. Yeah, I think along the same line, the psychology, the humility to ask people. Don't be scared to ask people. We wouldn't be where we're at. We know 100% this is not just us. We have a whole community, a whole staff behind us that have helped us get to this point, and we hope to keep growing, and we know it's not going to be just us growing it. There's so many people. So I think just, as Quinn said, that limitation, taking it off and just going for it. We'd love to hear stories of people just trying it, and figuring out as they go. I think life, we're all figuring out as we go.
Right.
Business is just a small part of it. Parenting, another small part of it, I don't know how to parent. We're just figuring it out.
We've talked about that on here. It's like, I thought my parents had it figured out, and then you get older and you're like, man, I don't even know what, like, they clearly didn't know what they were doing, and I'm not sure what I'm doing either.
Yep. So just keep grinding, keep going every day, and keep growing. It's part of life. Just keep growing.
Awesome. Thanks for coming on, guys.
Of course.
I appreciate everything you guys are doing. Whether you want to admit it or not, I know you're both pillars in the community with everything that you guys do, and you guys are the face of it, literally. So I appreciate it, and I'm proud of both of you guys. I always wanted to do a car wash when I was in high school, and after Quinn telling me how hard it is going on vacation so much, I'm not sure I'd want to. So
that's how we're going to leave it on Quinn's vacation. Just a side note, Quinn does not go on 20 weeks. He's 22. Yeah. He does not go on that much, but he can get harassed for it.
Yeah, for real. Thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it. You guys, if you like the podcast, please go rate us, share it, comment. If you want to get in contact with these guys, you can follow Tag and Go on every social media. I mean, you guys are pretty much on everything, right?
Tweet us.
Yeah, if you want to reach out and do a unpaid internship, hit them up.
We'll even pay you.
Okay, thanks, guys. We'll see you next week.